Okay, so if you're probably watching this video, congratulations, you finally made the step from shooting in A+ mode to shooting in manual mode, which I mean, now all the camera settings are completely up to you. I remember when I first started photography, shooting in manual mode was one of the biggest hurdles to kind of get over. I know a lot of us photographers kind of see this as a rite of passage in order to get the best photos. I mean, because now you have complete control over your camera. I mean, there's no decision making left for your camera except maybe auto white balance. I still use auto white balance, but point is, guys, I'm stoked for you. I actually personally never shot in auto plus mode. Maybe like when I first turned on my camera, I think it came on auto plus mode, but like from the get-go, I always shot in manual, and it was hard. Like I know the struggles. So yeah, I'm here to get you guys through this struggling time and kind of shed some light on some points to help you learn your camera and just shoot in manual mode and just be like a manual mode god. So shooting in manual mode is gonna allow you to change all your settings on your camera from aperture, ISO, and shutter speed. These are the three main components that kind of come together in order to make a properly exposed photo. In simple terms, all of these three components manage the brightness of your photo, but they all affect different aspects of your actual photo itself. So first things first, we're gonna jump into aperture and see what that's all about. So aperture is the opening on the lens itself that opens or closes to let either a lot of light in or a little bit of light in. Now just to quickly show you how this looks like, I'm gonna actually use this vintage lens, which I can manually control my aperture to kind of like show you guys what I'm talking about. So I'm gonna zoom it in a little bit and look at the center, see how that kind of opened up, and then we go ahead and close it. You can see the lens actually like moving the blades in to kind of like close or open how much light will be allowed inside of your lens. So the way the aperture work is that they scale up with these things called f-stops. You have f-stops ranging from like 1.2 all the way to f22. So the way that f-stops work is that lower numbers give you a bigger opening of your lens and higher numbers give you a smaller opening on your lens. So basically the bigger the opening is, the more light can fall through the lens. The smaller it is, the less light can go through the lens. This makes your photo look way darker and this makes your photo look way brighter. Now depending on the aperture that you actually use is going to affect your depth of field. What depth of field is basically what is allowed to be in focus and what is allowed to be out of focus, or basically what falls into bokeh, which is essentially that super cool blurry background you get. So using smaller numbers, like for example a 1.4 aperture, is going to give you a more narrow depth of field, meaning that whatever is in this small spot of the actual photo is going to be in focus, and whatever's behind it and in front of it is going to fall into that nice little blurry background. For example, if you were to take a photo of me right now, and if you're shooting at 1.4, if you focus on my nose, you'll start to see that it starts to fall out of focus as it goes into my eye. That little distance just already starts getting into like out of focus per se. Now using a narrow depth of field is really good to isolate your subject that you're trying to show in your photography. Like for example, this is very popular when doing portraits. You really are able to show who is your main focus of this photo. Now if you're shooting at a bigger number, that means you're getting a deeper depth of field. Now for example, if you take another photo of me right now at f22 for example, or not f22 but like at f5.6, you'll start seeing that even if you focus in on my nose, you'll get all of my face in focus because the depth of field, or what is allowed to be in focus, is way bigger. Therefore more is sharper and not a lot of it falls into bokeh. Now what I personally like to use like a deep depth of field for is if I'm doing like group family photos where there's people like in front, in the back, and then in the back. Like if you shoot that at a 1.4, like only the people in the front are going to be like nice and crispy and the people in the back are going to be super blurry. So if you shoot at a deeper depth of field, all three lines are going to be completely sharp and completely in focus. So the next camera setting we have to worry about is shutter speed. Shutter speed is basically the amount of time your sensor is exposed when taking a photo. It's basically like opening and closing, allowing light into your camera to capture whatever it is you're trying to take. So shooting at a fast shutter speed is going to let in less light because it's a really quick opening and closing that exposes your actual sensor. So for example, if I take a photo of me waving my hand right now at a super fast shutter speed, I'm going to be able to freeze the motion because it just captures like how my hand is moving basically. Now this is great if you're going to be shooting outdoors since there's a lot of light. You really want to have your shutter speed kind of higher. That way you let in less light since there's so much light from the sun. Now if you were to use a slow shutter, that's going to let in more light because your sensor is exposed for a little bit longer. But the issue about that is that if you're actually, like for example, I'm moving my hand at a really slow shutter, you're going to see it get really blurred out because the amount of time is captured, like it's not good at freezing a subject per se. So a great use for a slow shutter is if you're going to be shooting indoors, and if you want to really slow down that shutter, you're going to have to shoot on a tripod because even just holding it at a really low shutter speed, like your body kind of moves and jiggles a little bit, so even that's going to introduce motion blur into your actual photo. A quick little tip from me is that I honestly never go under 1/125th of a second if I'm shooting handheld. Anything under that, I know I'm not stable enough. It's gonna be a crappy shot. So I trust myself at 1/125th, but even then I'm like holding my breath and like. Now the next camera setting that we really have to mess around and play with is ISO, which I personally think is the easiest one to get the understanding of. But basically what ISO is the digital sensitivity of your sensor to light. So basically it's like a digital brightening of your actual photo itself. Now ISO is actually really simple in my opinion. If you use a low number, which I mean typically the lowest you can go on any camera is like 100 ISO, and then the highest one, I mean that kind of varies on your camera manufacturer. Honestly, sticking to a low number, you're not artificially brightening it up a little bit. Now if you use like for example an ISO of 3200, you're artificially brightening your image, so it's going to be a little bright. Now the bad thing about using a high ISO, like for example 3200, is that it starts introducing like a lot of noise or grain. That's kind of the term that it is used. It makes your photos look really grainy and noisy. Like if you, I don't know, I mean it looks weird sometimes. Now this is where it gets a little bit tricky because not all ISO on every camera is the same. Some cameras are known to be really good at low light situations. For example, Sony's, especially for video, are known to perform really good because you can shoot at high ISOs, like for example 3200, 4000, and the amount of grain you're going to get on your shot is going to be minimal. Cheaper cameras don't allow you to kind of bump up your ISO too high without introducing a lot of grain. Not all cameras perform the same when it comes to ISO, so this one is kind of like a give and take. You have to know what your camera capabilities are in order to shoot in low light. That is basically it, guys. Changing these values on these three things are going to affect the way your image looks. It's a combination of changing your aperture, ISO, and shutter speed in order to get a properly exposed photo. So there isn't really like a magic formula in order to get like the best exposed shots all the time. Like it's not universal. Like every situation is going to require you to use different settings, and all you really have to do is know how all of your settings connect with one another in order to get properly exposed images in different situations. So guys, that's it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope I managed to explain these camera settings to you properly. If you did enjoy it, please make sure to comment, like this video, subscribe if you haven't done so already, guys. It would mean the world to me, honestly. But yeah, guys, I'm super excited for you if you stuck to the end of the video, first of all, and also if you're going to be shooting in manual mode from now on. Congratulations. There's a lot to learn, but don't get overwhelmed. Just keep shooting, keep playing around with those settings, and you're going to master them like that. It doesn't really take that long. You just have to shoot a lot. I mean, even if you're just sitting indoors, like walk outside, walk inside, and just practice on changing your settings so your photos can look good. All right, guys, that's it for me. I'll catch you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching this video. Again, it means a lot. Okay, thank you so much. Yeah. I mean, isn't that like the best sound ever? Did you know that in order to make everything look bigger, like they always hold Coke cans like this? Like, oh, this is how I drink my soda. It's so impractical. Okay, bye. Not sponsored.